To this story now, a new cryptocurrency scam is making the rounds in the country. The National Consumer Commission is dealing with complaints of people swindled by promoters of Obelisk. Victims are lured to invest in Bitcoin mining machines that cost between 340 to 450,000 rand. Well, let's find out more from Acting National Consumer Commissioner Thezi Mabuza. Ms. Mabuza, good morning and thank you very much for your time. You know, when I first saw the story, I could almost understand why others would judge some of these victims and say, we've heard so many times of such schemes, the Ponzi schemes, but it seems these scammers are getting smarter and smarter. What have your preliminary findings revealed about this particular scheme?
Fundo, good morning. What we had picked up from the complainants of this scheme is that people are actually inboxed from either your Instagram or your Facebook. Somebody befriends you and they get to know you better. And what happens is that it would just be a small investment that people would make, and then you would withdraw smaller catches, small catch from what you had actually invested. And people assume that that could be a promise of bigger withdrawals in the future. And they get to be in communities of groups of 500 within a WhatsApp group wherein they kind of like support one another within such schemes and believing that indeed it is legitimate.
And then is this now what we would then call a multiplication scheme?
Yes, Mfundo, it is a multiplication scheme because the promoters of this scheme would actually promise anything that is above 20% of the repo rate as on the date of an investment is actually a multiplication scheme. And the sad part about this is that people would be investing, and then as they go along, within 2 months, actually, the whole thing would collapse. So that is really the sad thing about any multiplication scheme, is that it is quick. It takes off very quickly. You start getting what you think is your reward or your payout within a week or two. And from there, everything dries. All they do is just get you to invest as much as possible and block you out.
This is honestly heartbreaking. But have you been able to maybe get a profile of some of these individuals that are running these schemes?
Mfundo, you know what is sad is that we get this kind of cloud because it happens in privacy. What we had picked up is that the account numbers that are being used are account numbers of the real victims that they had made available for people to deposit monies into them. Also, with the cash send, what we had picked up is that what you see, SIM cards of South Africans that have been used as well to receive these catches. We don't know whether they hand over these numbers to them or these account numbers directly to them, or they are being used as mules. We really don't know. But then on the other hand is that the other numbers that are being used on WhatsApps, they are either from North Africa or from the UK. So that would mean that the tracing of that, even if we work with other partners, is that they use South African bank accounts, monies are being withdrawn in cash, and then in this case, they would leave South Africa. So we don't know, because in this case, we could not get the direct accounts from where in monies moved from the South African banks, except that the monies are withdrawn just like within an hour in cash, and then we don't know what happens to the money. And what it said in this is that even with the 25 people that have laid complaints, is that within 2 months, collectively, they have lost around 750,000 just in 2 months.
My goodness.
So that is the sad part.
And it's probably their life savings. But you're saying that it's not easy to track these individuals, but the so-called mules, the South African ones, are the ones that can at least be found guilty or held liable for this, and would probably serve as a deterrent, that if you're going to assist them in opening the bank accounts, you will be arrested. Yes,
in essence, it is illegal. The victims actually have engaged in an illegal activity. And their accounts as such, even if now when they file their complaints, when we even probe further from them to say, how did your account land with the perpetrators? They would say to us, they don't know. But if you can check what happens in their social media space when they are being trolled and inboxed is that there is that level of trust wherein they willingly hand over their credentials to the scammers. But then if you say because it happens on social media, they don't even know the faces of these people, and sometimes they are disparate. But sometimes what we are seeing as regulators is the gullibility of some of us as South Africans, but as well the issue of getting rich as quick as possible, wherein people are not even willing, after they've been scammed, to come up and say this is what had happened, so that we can trace back. You ask a person who befriended you, who asked you to join, they are not willing. Immediately when you start asking those questions, people just disappear.
And you touch on a very important point, because some citizens aren't necessarily aware that it's not just those running the Ponzi scheme who act illegally, they're also, as participants, acting illegally.
Yes, and they are aware, Mfundo. We were looking at the social media profiles of some of the participants. You know, it was said when somebody said within that space to say that, you know, we are a group of 10 ladies. We joined this knowing very well that it is a scam. So our intention is to either scam others or be scammed. So that would mean that people that join this, when you're looking at the profile, it's your youngsters, people on social media, people that actually have better profiles that show the trollers that they can actually afford. Hence, they have bank accounts. They can actually, if somebody would lose around 120,000 in a week, where do they get that money from? It's either they are able to take a loan or they are using their savings. So this is sad because people go there knowingly. A few would actually be ignorant, but most of them, they know that it's a scam and they want to go there quickly to scam others. Hence, we think that they are also assisting the scammers in a way.
Thezi, thank you very much for your time this morning. That was Thezi Mabuza, Acting National Consumer Commissioner. Now,